Well, we finally made it. Appetite for Destruction all the way through is happening. I've done a couple of tracks already from it, but this is the lesson that really is one of the hardest songs on the album. The opening track, Guns N' Roses' Welcome to the Jungle. What an incredible track. There's so much stuff about this intro that is just wrong all over the internet. The delay pedals, the way that the effects are achieved, all of that stuff we're going to run through from start to finish. If you are a big fan of Guns N' Roses like I am, please subscribe down there and we'll help you out to get this sound nice and crunchy and nice and kind of Appetite for Destruction-esque. But let's kick in with that beginning and let's talk delay. So Slash has said in interviews before that at the beginning of this album, the delay effect was added post, so in the studio. So there are delay pedals that can create similar effects, but it's going to be very hard for you to make it sound like that given that it was done after the event of the recording. Having said that, I've got an effects pedal that I think is really good at a delay with a little bit of reverb added into the mix, which really sounds pretty effective. But just before we turn any of that on, these are the notes that we're going to be playing in the beginning. So just have a listen. That's it. And those are the only notes that have the delay pedal on. Loads of people think that the delay stays on when you're doing this. No. But let's start right at the beginning. I'll turn on the pedal here and I'll show you the effects that I'm using to achieve the effect. The effects that I'm using to achieve the effect. So this is a digital delay DD3T. I've got it running not in the main loop, so it's in the effects loop only, and the settings are showing up for you now. There's a little bit of reverb added into the mix as well, because I think it gives it the best possible sound. By the way, I think you probably would have guessed, but we're tuned down to E flat in kind of standard Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction style. Most of the albums, in fact the whole album's in that. And the other thing to say is that this whole song stays on the bridge pickup here, so no messing about. So just have a listen now with the effects added in. Now you often hear when Slash is doing a live version of this track that he starts off by kind of going. And what I think he's doing is he's listening to get himself in time with the delay. And then he'll kick into it. And then the delay goes off for the next section, because otherwise if you leave it on it sounds like this. And it's an absolute mess. So let's get rid of that for the next section as we run it through. Get rid of the reverb as well, because Slash very rarely plays with any reverb on his sound. So let's run through this main riff with no delay. You've got to palm mute if you want to make this sound really, really good. So you're going to have to get nice and crunchy, which means using your right hand and sitting it across the bottom string. Okay, so this is the notes. Just forget the fingers that I'm using at the moment because they're going to change in a sec, but these are the notes that we're interested in. Now I'm going to palm mute it. Okay, so that's the notes that we're playing with there. Sort of B pentatonic scale, really. Very simple. The picking pattern is the next thing we're going to tackle. So this is down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, all the time. Okay, so here we go. So the only difference is, of course, the final turnaround where you get the... So you alternate from there, and then you're back. Which is why it's quite difficult, actually, because that little turnaround makes it a little bit tougher to get into the rhythm. The other thing I want to mention is the fingering on the left hand, which is not just playing it with third and first fingers, which would be easy, but it ignores the fact that there's a really cool slide in there. So the way you achieve that is by using Slash's fingering, which is 3-1, 3-2. This one. So that bottom part is done with second fingers. And then you slide with that third finger. Ah, see, I'm so used to playing it with the first finger, but it's wrong. You'll get there in the end. The other thing to mention is that there's 3 occasions where this comes round, where the riff becomes simplified and you just hear. So just note that in the tab, that's played without muting, so it's very kind of loud. There's no slides in there, so you can use the first and third fingers, and then you've got these 2 chords. So that's Slash's part, seeing it through. The other little bit of the intro that I just wanted to mention is the line that Izzy plays over the top, which is probably the bit that you would want to play once you've mastered this. Got it right that time. So pleasing. So the Izzy solo over the intro is like this. And then the next bit, I would recommend playing it up here. So that bit's quite cool with the parallel fourths there. And then you get this. So that little pattern is. There's one other little thing I want to address, which is that some people say that in the second time you hear this pattern, Slash repeats the 4th fret. Like that. I've listened to it probably a million times, and I don't think that's what's going on there. I think it does sound like that because I think there's I don't want to say that there's a mispick, but I think that you can hear it being played like this. If you listen really carefully, you can hear the left hand actually moving to the B. I think it might just be the fact that the B string was played again. So I think that's what's going on there. So just a little note about that, because I've seen some people recommending that you play that, which I definitely wouldn't do. Let's get into it then. So we're doing a 1st and 4th finger as a power chord here, and we're going to do a lot of sliding around. So I hope you're ready for that. So let's jump in. And this is the 5th fret. So you lift your hand on that open E to give yourself time to come back up. That's the 2nd time round. 3rd time. And then you've got these little patterns that come in every now and then. This is a really cool one with a harmonic. So give that a go. Pinch harmonic. The best way to achieve that, by the way, is to turn your right hand on the pick really almost diagonal when you're striking, so kind of downwards and almost at that angle to the guitar, and really drag your thumb. And then this is what I meant when I said the verse is played in a different way. This is actually how Slash mostly plays this part of the song. So it's kind of like a single note really, while Izzy Stradlin does the chords. Slash does it like this. And then the second time. And then it changes up to here with the power chords again. Sounds better quicker, obviously. And then we'll quickly go into the first part of the chorus before we stop this video and go on to part 3. So it goes like this. So C power chord, little crunches before, and then you hear this. But that's got delay and reverb on, which I suspect was done after the event again. As you can hear the repeat if I put it on for you now. Whereas the next part that's played by Izzy sounds like this. So this little bit is done in sort of first position or root position, whatever you want to call it, with Slash. Just make sure you do that up pick and the dead note. And then there's a pinch harmonic here. And then also there. So just make sure you catch that as we head into the second verse here. I'll run you through one of the little variations here, which is like this. It's quite a nice little one there, which I've tabbed out for you. The verse continues, second verse here, like this. You can do that with a third, second, third to replace the power chord, or you can even go the first finger. That's the same power chord sequence that we've done before, so I won't run you through that again. That's covered in a previous lesson though with the slides. And then we hit this bit again. They've got the delay pedal there and a little bit of reverb as we've discussed before, and then we hit this again. And then Slash does. Whereas you hear Izzy do. So you've got these diminished chords here. So let's just run through this again. So you've got the open, bottom string, parallel diminished, and then now you can do these all down picks if you want. And then you've got the next section on the next page of the tab. And then this slide. A lot of people play it here, but Slash plays it up here. And then we're going to jump up to this next really cool bit of the solo, to the slide up to the 18th fret. And then you jump down here. And then you switch positions here to this 10th fret. You can actually do these down picks as well. Make sure you do that pinch harmonic at the end as well. So let's run through those variations then. So we're still doing the single note chorus, which Slash does, and it sounds like this. And he slides in. And then there's this nice little pattern here, which is a right slide up the neck. There's also another guitar line, which you can hear below that. And then it goes something like that. I've just approximated it underneath because I know that Slash live always likes to do that. Then you're back with these power chords on the E again. With the delay and the reverb that we've talked about before, and then we have this. So Slash has a very easy time of it in the bridge. He just does the arpeggiated chords, so. It's Izzy who's doing these kind of cool bits. And he does this. He sort of alternates with Slash on this C note. Just a few little intricate bits here before we hit this pre-solo section where it goes like this. And then there's a slide, which I actually happen to have here. The A note goes up on the record, which is something that must be done in post-production, because that immediately links in with Slash going. So we're up here, we've done the slide on the 5th fret with the actual metal slide there, discussed in our last video. Now we're up here, 15th fret bend with the 12th fret as well. Bit of vibrato on that last one. And then we do this. That's the slide down there. And then you've got these two little dead notes before we get to the solo. So that 6th fret is a pinch harmonic. And then you use the first finger to move, the little 14th bend. And then you do these two notes here. Little bit of vibrato on that 4th fret that's there. And then this is a cool bit, jump up to the 6th. So you're using that first finger there. And then it's these two 2nd frets. So 2nd and 3rd finger. And then you use this 2nd finger to slide. I don't bother to pick this one. And then you slide up and then go to the 15th. Down to this 10th, which is crucial. And then you pre-bend and release. Really awesome section there. So one more time. So pre-bend and release by half a fret. And then hammer on. And then these two notes. So mute the middle string and just play the 2nd and 3rd fingers. And then we're going to do these descending bends here. Jump down to the 6th fret. Little bit of vibrato there. And then you've got this section that follows. Then you need your slide because you're going to slide up using the 4th. And then you hit harmonics there. And then this is where it's really interesting. So you've got your delay and reverb back on. And this is how you achieve the sound. I never knew it was done like this for a long time. You're jumping up to an octave above the 22nd fret. So up here. Do you hear that? So that's Slash doing that. You've got these little bent notes here which Izzy does, while Slash continues to mess about and go. Stuff like that, which is too much fun. And then you turn all that off, and then you jump back in once you've finished messing around with these little breakdown chords here. We'll just run through this bit and keep it going until we hit the outro. So it's all this speed. Then the notes change after one iteration if you're going to play all that bit that we've discussed. So you're going to do the 3rd, 2nd and 1st finger. And then jump up again. To do the next bit, the 10th fret here is how it goes. So you do 2 of them and then you go up to the 11th fret. And then there's this really, really awesome shape, which I'll just show you quickly. This is the diminished. So one more time, on the 8th fret. You've got to do that pretty fast if you want it to sound like the record. And then we're jumping back into these power chords. Same again. And then we've got it twice. And that all has reverb and delay on again, so that's another different variant. Back to the main riff. So this is the last iteration. Hendrix chord at the end. And that's it, we've done it. Welcome to the jungle, Appetite for Destruction completed. I hope you enjoyed this series. Thanks for watching. We're going to run through the whole of Appetite for Destruction. So our next one, I think it's called It Ain't Easy. Not one of my favourite songs. In fact, it's very tough. That'll be our next video in the series of the Appetite for Destruction playthrough. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe, and we'll catch you soon. Look, we're normally about hard rock and epic stuff on the channel here, but my son is a huge fan of Paw Patrol, and I just wanted, if any fellow dads out there who wanted to, impress their kids with a bit of rock and roll, then this is probably the way to do it here. You just got to follow this tab. It's very straightforward. Crank up a bit of a distortion on there, and I'll show you how it's done. So the Paw Patrol theme tune, I've done a little arrangement here, mostly power chords. We'll go through it slowly. So A major, so like this. F power chord, F sharp, then to a D, and then a B, which is an E but higher up. Same again. And then this is the bass line, but we're going to play along with it. This is the hardest bit. And then it comes round to the... There's an extra little added note in there. And then this is the slow. What a change up. And then it goes. And that's the end of Paw Patrol, the theme tune. I thought just a little run through on how you can do that with an arrangement and a tab might be fun. This is the proof that I'm not just doing this for myself. Well, actually, it doesn't really prove it, does it? But this is one of my son's favourite teddies, which I borrowed for the video. But anyway, thanks for watching. Do make sure that you subscribe. If you want more theme tunes for kids, I mean, it can be done. So just let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I've been waiting to do this one for a long time. I think it's fair to say it's my favourite Guns N' Roses track, even over Sweet Child of Mine at the moment, because it's just got so much going on, although it's unbelievably difficult. We're going to run it through. Nightrain. This t-shirt does actually say Nightrain, sort of, if you look at it low enough. But we're going to go for it now here on Appetite for Destruction, our lesson series that's tackling the whole album. We've done the first couple of tracks off there, so if you want to check those lessons out, they're available. But let's keep going with it now, and this is Nightrain. So I'll take you through Izzy's part first, because it's a little bit easier than Slash's part. Both of them, though, start off with this distortion sound on the bridge pickup. Izzy's sound is a little bit cleaner than Slash's, though, on the bridge pickup, so you can roll off a little bit the volume or a little bit the tone if you want to just differentiate those two parts. It also kind of goes without saying that we're tuned down to E flat, like the whole of Appetite for Destruction is, but just in case you're joining us just for this lesson only, the track is tuned down by a semitone, so we're in E flat tuning here. We're in this A chord with your first finger, and then Izzy's line goes like this. Now, weirdly, it all uses the first finger. I've watched a few live videos of Guns N' Roses, and Izzy's a first finger enthusiast for this line, so. That's the only one that's the second finger. And then you get a double dead note. So that's Izzy's line there, nice and straightforward, lots of sliding around, and it's as simple as that. Now Slash's line is a lot more complicated throughout, and we're going to be focusing on his part for this lesson. This is his intro line though, bridge pickup, distortion on, and a lot more going on. So that A chord again, and you've got a dead note as you move, like that, and then you're coming up to the 7th fret for this chord shape. So, those are your first two notes. So just talking about this initial movement here with these 3-note chords, you've got this, it's like an A7. Because you've got the G at the top of it. And then it's followed by an up pick, so, and then you do a bar across with your first finger. Now this is where it gets interesting already. Early in his career, Slash used to move his first finger, so he used to go. But later in his career, he moves straight away. So you get move to the third and then down. And the reason for that is that once you've done those initial moves, you've done the hard work. You're in the right position for a lot of the rest of the shape now. So we're going to stick with that suggestion. And then what happens in the next bit is you kind of get a little hammer-on. The reason that there's this slight readjustment is because you need to make sure your third finger is in the absolute sweet spot to be lifted up from those bars like that to make this shape. And if you have it in slightly the wrong place, it's really hard. So that's why, even though you're already there, you have a second to readjust. So once you've hit this new shape, G, and you're going to go to this shape here, bottom note, followed by the top two, let the bottom note ring, and you move up like that at the end, and then you keep that whole shape pressed down to the 5th fret, so this bit is interesting. Once you've played the next bar here, you mute with your third finger just to separate the notes. And then you drop down to that 5th and 4th fret there with the 2nd and 1st finger. Then 2 and 3, 2 and 1, then move. And you do some vibrato here with your 2nd and 3rd fingers, but interestingly the bottom note is sounded quite a lot more prominently than the top note when you're listening to the album, so it's important that you do hit both of those notes. So just to play it through then really slowly for you, so you've got dead note from the beginning, and then it's very similar the next time it comes round. Except the last time you play that power chord, you can hit the full notes with the bottom A's. And then we're going to go into verse 1. So if you watch Slash play this live, there's about 3 different picking options that you can do. I've tried to kind of notate them in the best possible way here to give you some options when you're playing through, because it's very loose, this bit. So we're going to palm mute with this pattern, all down picks. And there's an up here. Now usually I would say, most times round, that note, the power chord is an up. So apart from the first time, so this is how it should be. Up pick there, and then down. Always a down for this. You want to play this note with the 3rd finger as a down pick predominantly. It's easier to play as well with that 3rd finger. What happens though very often when Slash is playing live is that in the main picking pattern is that he will do a sort of double picking, so it's like a like that. So I'll show you one time round. So it's like this. It's very, very commonly done when he's playing live, and I think you can hear it a few times on the album as well. However, as the riff progresses, He always plays certain ones with certain picking styles. So there's definitely later on, as you kind of follow this riff round and round, he starts to favour the down pick. So, for example, in bar 40, he very often will do a down pick in that second time that you hear the chord, like that.
Chance left in a nightlife cat. I got a doggy does my smile. I got a Molotov cocktail with a match to go. Smoke my cigarette with style.
Then there's this little turnaround bit. So you just grab the D note there with that third finger, bend up full, and also pull off afterwards. Which is quite straightforward. This one here, by the way, is a pinch harmonic. So it goes like... Just a very slight pinch harmonic there. Just make sure you achieve that by turning the pick a little bit sideways and dragging your thumb across the neck there. So just once more. This is the one that Slash does differently here in bar 48. Just before the D. And that D chord is never played with the F sharp in the top. It's always like this. And that third finger just lifts. And then we've got this, before we get into verse 2, we've just got this return. Now Izzy slides in like this. But Slash doesn't slide in, he just comes in like this. So just run you through that here. Slash's line, down, up. That first finger slides twice. And that fifth to fourth, you're really losing the B string. You just hear. So the fingering again is second and third fingers like this. And then second and third fingers here. Slide down with the second and first. And then and that's the third finger here. And then you pinch harmonic with vibrato and then the huge bend. That's why you're using a third finger, because it's easier to do that huge 1.5 fret bend than it is to do it with the second finger. That's harder than. So one more time, because it's just important to get right. Make sure you catch that pinch harmonic right, otherwise it's going to sound odd. Then we're going to go into verse 2, which is very similar to what we've had before, so we're just going to keep going here because it's just a very similar repeat of verse 1. Look out for the picking pattern variations here. I'll run it through with some options. So worth saying, by the way, that Slash very often just sticks with the up pick in the early parts of the riff. And then we're doing another repeat of the intro. So same again, like we've done in the very beginning in our first lesson, and then there's a doubling there. And then you move up. And then you go to this power chord. So just to run that through again, you get the usual intro. So we're diving in and we've done this. We've ended up on this A chord again. And this is the picking pattern. So essentially the pull-offs are the key and the picking pattern is the key as well. There's occasional times where Slash will go a little bit of variations that are possible live, but really most of the time it's played like this. Down pick and then up, pull off, and then down, which I found hard to get my head around, but it's just because it's emphasis. This is where it changes up here in bar 77. You've got this power chord, which both of the notes are played for. So first and third frets with your first and fourth fingers on this F. And then Slash just like awesomely holds this G chord. So that G, you just use the third finger and hit those bottom four strings, but ignore the A string and make sure you mute that with your fat finger. Make sure that this G note is played with your second finger before you hit the solo section, which Izzy does, the first one actually. He goes the... We'll start with Slash's pre-solo because we're following Slash's line really, and this is how it goes. So there's a lot of power chords and lifting off the first finger. So that little bit is slightly lift off on this power chord here. So you've got to move. I mean, really, you're not playing that second fret there, you're kind of just playing the bottom string. Because you're doing it so quickly, it doesn't really matter. And then it carries on, so... little slide down before it comes round again. These are all up picks, by the way, so... That's Slash's solo, which we'll go to in a minute. Izzy's solo comes over that, and then it has a little pause at the beginning, and then it's like this. So just to run it through slowly, you have this offbeat and then you get the bends, third and fourth finger. So it's a bend, then a pre-bend, release. That's a little bend up. Then a dead note. Then the third finger starts to slide down here, so all the way down to that second fret. And then it's up picks from Izzy as well. So that's Izzy's solo. Slash's solo is pretty complicated, so let's get straight into that. There's loads to go through here. So we start off with this part one of Slash's solo, the first solo. And it's a third finger and a fourth finger, and you're doing a full bend on the ninth. And a slightly lesser bend, and then a half bend. You do the same again. Then you're sliding up to this 11th with the third finger. So that's a nice arpeggio. So slide up to the 11th. Then this 12th fret is a full bend. And then when you press this down pick here, you're catching the B string on the 12th as well. Like that. And then 10th, the 12th, and this. This is the kind of Chuck Berry section that everyone refers to here. So the 10th doubling here, so it's like that. And then nice little pattern there, very kind of chilled. And then when you're jumping up for this really fast bit, and then this next bit is, so slowly you're on the 17th fret here, and then it's the second finger, and then you slide down, and then it's a dead note, bend up, slide down there. Switch to the neck pickup here. This gets very, very involved. Parallel sixths, very beautiful section, but very tough to play. On the 7th fret there. So second and third finger with the dead note in the middle. So just running it through slowly. 7th and 7th, down. So just slide that up, no second pick there, and then dead notes. And then you do this, second and first finger, 11th and 10th. Then back to the 9th. 6th and 5th. And then as you're sliding down to those second frets, switch the bridge pickup again, and then you're going to this new shape. So I'll run you through that. So 4th fret, then over to the third finger, 3rd and 4th, full bend here, 1st and 4th, very hard to get back for that, and then you slide down here and do a pinch harmonic. Pretty difficult, I must say, but awesome. Then you've got this little continuation of the solo here before we go back to the return. There's two ways you can play this. Now, in the early days, Slash used to do it like this. But recently, he's upgraded that to go. So I would recommend the new way. The picking pattern he uses is up, down, up. So, and then same again. So those are downs. And then same again. So there's a little slide bit here as well, which I wouldn't recommend doing if you're playing live. I mean, you can hear it on the album on the 7th frets here. The slide is used. But you're not going to get a slide out just for that little section here, because you do double pick and then slide. What Slash does every time he plays live, though, is he plays the bottom note of this chord, so he goes, and then does harmonics with these 3 notes. Which is really cool and shakes the neck. So before you get to the epic return. So there's a few different things here. You split the first chord like that, and then as these dead notes are happening, you move. You slide down that 3rd finger and vibrato. You double that 3rd note here, and then you slide that down, and then you're back up. And there's a rhythm change. There's this long delayed bend, so now I suspect that really there's a second pick, but on the album it doesn't sound like it. So I would say don't pick again, try and get that note to sustain. It's hard. And then we're into chorus 2, which I'll just run us through here. This is very similar to what we've heard before. We're going to get into our outro solo in just a minute, but the slight difference here is that you do, instead of just playing, which we've had before, Slash actually does continue the riff, so let's just run through that. A down pick, so that's a single note, and then 4th finger, 2nd finger, then G with the 3rd finger. So that G then bends with the 3rd finger, slide up, little quarter bend there, before we get into the proper outro solo. So I'm just going to run you through this now. Try and follow along with the tab, I think that's the most helpful. So from this point, we're on the 3rd finger on the 2nd fret on the G. Nice bit of vibrato on that 5th fret. Not too difficult so far. Then we're sliding down to the 4th. And then you jump up here. And then this is how this next bit goes. So quite complicated, but if you follow the tab, I think you'll find it's actually explained quite in a straightforward way. There's a slight pinch harmonic for the next one. And then the next bit is pinch harmonic. Slight pinch harmonic there as well. So that's actually all quite straightforward. Then we're going up again to the 7th with more pinch harmonics. There's a lot more here, so. And then you jump up to the 10th here, which is quite difficult. And then 1st and 4th. and then you jump down, and then it's a rebend. And then you've got to come over with this. And then this is where it gets really hard, so up to the 8. And then this. That slide is the absolute key to this solo, so. And it has to be a third finger, because then the next bit all links on from that, so. And just keep following it along, so then it's jump up. So that's where you jump down there. It's a bit of a weird note choice, but it is there. And then we're on to this next section here, so it's high up. Then over. Lots of unusual bending there, but it's absolutely right. And then it's this 17th fret. And then you get and the gradual fade out happens over time, and that's the sort of specific notes that you need to play if you want to follow it absolutely identically to the solo here. So I just ran it through there for you so that you can kind of play along really slowly to make it accurate. Now obviously when you're doing it you can just improvise. There's no requirement to follow along with Slash's notes, but I just spent a while tabbing that out for you just so that you can actually play along if you so choose. That's it from us. Thanks for watching this whole series. It's been a lot of fun. Do check out some of the playthroughs we've got and the rest of our Appetite for Destruction series. I hope that's been useful. Follow the tabs. They're all free and available to download there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Well, the Super Bowl happened and Rihanna was the halftime show and absolutely, well, smashed it out of the park, to be honest with you. We did actually stay up till 3 in the morning because we've got a new baby, so nighttime and daytime mean nothing to us anymore. I thought it'd be fun to look through Rihanna's back catalogue and see if there were any tracks with epic guitar riffs in. There's a few actually, but I thought it'd be fun to do Kiss It Better because it has such an awesome guitar sound to it. It's been a lot of fun to set this one up. So I've got loads and loads of reverb on the guitar. We're playing on the neck pickup, and I've rolled off the tone completely down here, so there's absolutely nothing there, just to get the sound of it. Normally I'll be using this guitar for drop D tuning, but I thought because it's red, I've tried to find as much red stuff as possible in tribute to Rihanna's halftime show. But let's get into how to play this song, because it's a lot of fun. Definitely Santana-esque vibes to this one. We're going to start off with just playing through the riff. It's in E flat tuning, so this guitar's been retuned just for this song because it's red, to E flat. Although you can of course play it in E. If you're going to play along in E and you can't be bothered to retune your guitar, you take everything I've written and knock it down 1 fret. So we'll start at the beginning, and this is really the crux of the song. This is the whole song revolves around this riff. So if you listen to it from the very beginning, there's a kind of couple of really light picks. So we'll go to this 8th fret on your E string, tuned down to E flat, of course. Like that. Now the fingering suggestions underneath are what I actually saw played in a video from 2006. Rihanna's guitarist on that tour, I think it's called Made in LA or something, uses this fingering, so I'm going to copy that. So 1, 3, 1, and then drop down that first finger, 2nd, the second time it comes around, it comes in early and you've got a lot more of this 10th fret action. It's a fun little quiet section in the piece just before it goes into this synth line. I've written it as 10th to the 12th fret bent. You can also add in this other 10th fret here on your E string, or E flat as it is now. Sounds a bit more like it. Then we've got a synth section which I've kind of approximated for you. So this is just my interpretation of the synth line. There's no guitar here, but if you're going to play along with the whole song, you might as well play this bit as well. And then it goes around again, so. Then we're back into the intro section here. Or, like I said before, there's so many tiny little variations which I've written out specifically for you in the tab. You know, this riff changes almost every time it's played. There's different kind of hammer-ons. So if you don't want to be too specific about it, you can improvise, but I have written them out for you if you're a stickler for the notes. We'll go for that synth repeat again, so the same line comes around twice. Then we go back to the intro again, and you'll get the hang of this song because a lot of it is very similar now. So I've written etc. because I'm not going to write this same riff out each time for you, but you'll get the plan. Then we go for another synth repeat again. And then at the very end of that synth repeat, you can hear this in the background on a low volume. But you can't really fit it in if you're going to play the repeat here. But just so you know, it's there really quietly, so you'll have to turn the volume down if you're going to play that, rather than a bit too epic compared to the record. And we'll just carry on for the final few times this comes round. I'll play it through as it is on the record. This bit's really fun. This is the one variation that's worth learning. It's a kind of quick run up here. On to page 2 of the tab now. This is the last few variations round. It's kind of quite similar to what we've had before, to be honest with you. Notice that that first of those 3 isn't played, but I've just written it in there because that's how we've played it previously. It then comes round quite similarly again. There's a little pause here, so a beat. And then it starts to fade. So note the little variations that I've written in the tab. You can also hear a second guitar doing some funny bits over the top. We've stuck with the main riff for this edition of How to Play here on the channel. I did wear all red to try and channel Rihanna. This is kind of everything I've got that's red, so hopefully it kind of works. But anyway, thanks for watching this one. We might do some more Rihanna actually. There are a couple of other kind of really rocking tracks that are less kind of soft tone sounding and much more standard rocky. So we'll give them a go in the future. But if you like this one, something a bit different, then do subscribe and we'll see you next time on the channel. Well, it's been a while, but we've managed to make our way to the end of side A from Appetite for Destruction, and we've landed on one of the most beautiful and exceptionally difficult pieces of music of all time. This is Paradise City, signature track from Guns N' Roses. They very often end their gigs with this one. There was a recent performance with Dave Grohl, came out and sort of jammed away with them. There's so much technically to have a look at here. So we're going to start off with the intro. First things first, before we dive in, it's E-flat tuning, so we're tuned down at a semitone. So just bear that in mind as we dive into Paradise City. So the first thing you need to know is that you're on a clean tone. You're on the bridge pickup of your guitar, and you've got to have a chorus pedal turned on. Now I've put some settings of the chorus pedal that I use, which you can check out here. I would highly recommend this chorus pedal just because it has a lot of variety and a lot of sounds available, but it really captures pieces of music like this, Paradise City, and also Sweet Child of Mine, which we're going to get onto as we continue our Appetite for Destruction lesson series. I would highly recommend getting hold of this pedal if you're interested in a chorus. Without it, it can still sound pretty good, but we're going to dive in here with the chorus. So notes-wise, you're playing with a G chord, a C chord, and an F chord. So those chords just on their own, that's the G, then you've got the C, with that extra G in the top. Then you've got the F with the G in the top, so it's like a sustain. And then there's a little turnaround. So that's the first point. The second point, which is something I find particularly interesting, is that on the album version of this piece of music, it's actually slightly different to how it has always been played live. You'll see a lot of lessons telling you to stick in an extra note in the pattern here. So that extra B note there with the extra up pick is basically how Slash plays it live all the time. However, on the album version, if you listen carefully, which I've done many times, you can't hear that note being played because it isn't played. Now, I think that gives this intro actually a bit more of a rhythmic, cooler feel. Without that extra note, it actually has a little bit of sort of pause and give and take. So without the note, whereas with the note, of course, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't feel as cool to me. But anyway, we're going to stick with the album version because that's what we've done with all these lessons here. But in brackets, I put the extra up pick for you, and that does continue each time round. Sometimes there's an extra B note with an up pick in the live situations, like the little note says. So let's dive in then. The picking pattern as well is absolutely key with this introduction. Without the picking pattern, without following it, you're going to really, really struggle to play it. I can only really manage to get my head around this one because of the way the picking is done. So the first G is the only one where you really spread it out slowly like that with an arpeggiation. So you drag your pick across the notes, just like that. And then it's down, up, up. And then you're going to skip out the bracketed note and you're going to do a down. And then it's down, up, up. So one more time for that first bar. And then this is the bit where it gets interesting. So 2 open notes. And then you're going to hammer on the C shape. So again. Another thing to mention, by the way, is that this first fret, first finger on the B string here is the note that you're always returning to after these shapes. A lot of people play open Gs and other stuff. If you listen really slowly on the album, it always goes. It always keeps coming back there, so make sure that you do the same thing as well. Then the F chord. So this is kind of one of the more difficult patterns here. So you're going to hammer on those F notes. So the third and second fingers. And then you're going to hear. And then same as the previous hammer on situation. Then lift everything off. 2 open strings and then back to the G. Now the way this G is played is not quite as arpeggiated as the first time. And also you don't actually play the top note in bar 4, you just hear. And then you're going to hear the pattern again. So the way this bar 4 works. So the way bar 4 works is you play that chord but just play the lower strings. And then you hear this. Up. And then this is the turnaround here, so. Just like that. And you return to simply that D note here. But as you're playing that D note, you're recreating your opening G chord pattern like that. And then you're ready in position to carry on in bar 5 after that open note. So that's how you tackle the intro section. We're going to run it through one time now, a little bit slower than it's played live, just to make sure you can follow along. I'll do the picking pattern as is written down and just try and keep up with the tab here. So what happens then, just as I was about to play the turnaround there, is it carries on another few times, but the Taking Me Down to the Paradise City singing comes in. So this carries on underneath. Scrolling along to bar 15, and then that's where it changes. You get these 3 chords. 15 if you listen carefully on the album, that's what happens before you hit the mega power chord. So that's just an F, a C, and then you've got a G, but you're not playing the second finger or the second string. Just gives it a nice plain and open sound. So you're still on the bridge pickup and you've lost your chorus pedal now. You've turned that off from the introduction. This is where it's kind of an interesting sequence here. So you've got this G. A lot of people think it's like played like this. But actually, Slash always plays it live like that. Which actually makes it quite tough to kind of move your fingers around. But anyway, you've got that G. The second string and finger is not really used. And you do these double dead picks. Then you've got the same thing following that. And then you come back down for the... So that C chord has this note in it. So flatten that third finger across. And then this F is first, third and fourth fingers. And then drop down. When you're playing this chord, you're not playing the top two strings, by the way. You're just hitting the bottom ones. That's the hardest one to come down again for it. Then when you mute again, to really mute the strings there. Sometimes live Slash will do a bit of vibrato as well. Now before you get into the soaring solo, if you're the rhythm guitar, then you play those two little picks again. But if you're Slash, you don't bother. He often slides up like that. But really on the album, you just hear him getting to this 12th fret. Neck pickup, by the way. And a lot of this little tune is sort of played on the edge of breaking through with harmonics and pinch harmonics. So when he plays it, it's not just... You can almost hear the slight tilting of the pick and the thumb dragging, and you get... That's quite a good one with the bend down. There's also an extra live note. If you hear Slash play this live, he goes... Just so you know, there's that little live variant. But this is how it's played on the album version. So what you want to do is you want to hammer on, down, up, then next, and then down, up again. 15th fret on that B. And then this is a second finger. And back with the third. Third finger here. Then you're coming over with the second for this. And then... Now it took me ages to work out this little turnaround here. How could it be played successfully? So there's two approaches that Slash uses. One is to use the third finger, up pick here, and then use the second finger, which I would recommend. That's why I've written it as option 1. Sometimes in a live situation, you'll hear Slash go second finger and then third. So whichever one you find easier, I would recommend, but I personally like sliding in with the second finger behind and doing that vibrato with the full. Next time the riff comes round, it's just very slightly different here. So the hammer on again, second finger. So that's a pull off there, and then up. And third finger then over like this. And then you get the whistle, and then you do a slide up and down. Then you're going to go into verse 1, which is on the bridge pickup. Still in E-flat tuning, we've got a little slide down the first time it gets played. You're on the bridge pickup and you've got your distortion on here. And really this riff is quite easy. So it's down pick, down, up, down, then the same again. So one more time. I suppose the main thing to bear in mind is that when you're crossing the string, it's a down, down pick. And a little bit of, just a touch of palm muting. Same again with the down pick, so here. And the little bend. And once again, this is another line which is almost breaking into harmonics here. So you've got a little bit of just kind of tilting the pick a little bit more of an angle, and it sounds more like this. And like these notes, for example, especially that third fret here, often sort of is verging into the harmonic territory. But just remember those down pick patterns. So the next time it comes round, I've just notated above in bracketed notes that on the album you hear a second guitar line that Slash has recorded, which is a fifth above. So it has the effect if you played them both. Which obviously you can't play at the same time like that, but that's why it sounds so kind of dirty and heavy. Sometimes in interviews, Slash says he recorded it an octave above. Now there is a guitar that plays an octave above, which is the Izzy line, but actually this is a fifth above, which is why it sounds absolutely monstrous and heavy. So let's just run through from bar 37. We'll play Slash's line that he plays live. Little time signature change there, and then you've got just third finger bend, and then you go back down to the main riff again. So I've written Izzy's line in just above here, just in case you're interested. Izzy's line is an octave above, but it does it with a more sort of funky feel. So so Izzy's line is just notated above one time in bar 45. We'll carry on with Slash's line though for now. And again, that harmonic, you can aim for a pinch harmonic there. Sometimes it comes out. Bar 47. And now this is Slash's part here. Sometimes he doesn't always play the open string, so you get... Izzy's line goes like this. Above Slash's part in bar 50. Sometimes live. And Izzy bends. So that's Izzy's line, which is over the top of Slash's line. Then we go back to chorus 1, which we've had before. I'll just run you through that. This is just for completeness' sake. then we're back in verse 2, which we're going to crack on with now. This is more Slash doing his thing. Bar 63. Bar 67. Sometimes Slash does this as a live option, just in case you wanted a little power chord in there. Same again. Then chorus 2, we're obviously carrying on because it's the same as what we've done before. Power chords down. Same thing as actually what happens in Nightrain, interestingly. You've got that kind of move down to an F. And then you get the... So you're on this 3rd fret on the D string. You slid in. This is quite straightforward, then it goes. So a little bend. I'd recommend bending away from yourself, actually. Just a little bit cleaner, and Slash tends to bend away when he can get away with it. And then you open string there, which gives you time to set up here onto this pattern, which is a 5th fret bend with a 3rd finger. And you're letting that first note ring as well, so... And sliding up with the 2nd finger. Then you've got a replacement, and then you put your 3rd finger on it and do a pinch harmonic. And then release. And then you're going for sort of slight pinch harmonics again. Then this is all palm muted here, so you've got lots of vibrato there. And then you get this unusual bit where you bend away from yourself, bend away with the 2nd and 3rd finger. Then you do the 3rd fret with the 1st finger, and then you cut. Quite an unusual section, that, isn't it? You get. Tough one, this one, but we're going to learn it together. So the essential idea is to do the 10th fret that's the kind of main riff, if you like, and you're on the neck pickup, by the way, here. So bar your 1st finger across, and then your 2nd finger does a hammer on, and then up, so down, up, and then down, down, with another hammer on. So each top string is played with an up pick, basically. And then you move it all down 2 frets to the 8th. I think that's kind of okay once you've got the pattern there and the string skip. But when it changes up here, and it took me ages to discover that Slash has been playing this in 3 different ways. That was way number 1. The next bit is you slide in with the 2nd and 1st finger. And then same again. So the way to really do this is to take your 1st finger, start on the 9th fret, do that, but with the 2nd finger held down, so. Same again. Now, the reason I've written some of the notes as doubles, so in bar 92, when it slides in the first time, for example, you've got slash often doubles the first time, then cleans up, and then same again. So you hear that doubling the first sort of iteration. And then this is when it changes one more time, bar 94. So you slide in bar 94, then you lose the rest, so you get... So one more time from bar 94. And that is the end of the bridge section, which is nuts. We'll just keep going with the alternate verse pattern, because once you've done that, you slide down and you end up here on your G string on the 4th fret here. So you land back here, back on the bridge pickup, and you get a bit more vibrato on the 4th frets though. It's the 4th and 2nd finger, by the way. And then the way that Slash tackles the next section is he drops down to the 2nd fret, slide to the 5th, vibrato, slide up to the 10th, 9th, and then you've got a really weird turnaround where you get... So 3rd finger, pull off, and then 4th fret, and the 3rd fingers are used throughout that, which is kind of odd. Back to chorus 3. This is a slight variation, so we'll just run you through this before we get to solo 2. So then you get... So same again, hammer-ons. That's an optional note there. It's not played on the album, so just go for 2nd finger. And 3rd finger there, because you're going to go for... So this is interesting, because you're going to use the 3rd finger here, and then 2nd sneaks in. Then back with the 3rd finger on the 14th at the end of that bar. Then we go round again. Bit of vibrato. And then you do this 4th finger, 3rd finger, then a full bend and release. So this one here. And then this is a 2nd finger. And then a 13th fret with the 3rd finger. And then pre-bend. And then you slide up. Same again. So on the intro riff here, you're back on the bridge pickup and you're going for... Make sure you do the down-down picks there. Same again. Drop it. It's a little slide up there. Quite a slow slide, actually. Slide in a little bit. And then, so a full bend on that 10th there, and then drop it again. And then there's the beginning of the outro solo here. So we're up to the next pickup, and then we're on this 12th fret here. And then we're doing this double 3rd finger on the 5th frets. Then you get this. and then you're diving up. I'm going to use the second finger to end on this 14th fret here. So that's that first little line, and then it goes from there in bar 135 to the 12th fret, and then stretch up. So that's the typical slash pattern there. Fourth finger. So third finger with a bend up. And then you switch to this second finger. And then as long as you end on the 18th fret there, bending up 2. Pretty cool. Then you've got this crazy section coming. So what happens here is you get, those are the picked notes, but then there's also a 5th fret with a second finger. And Slash does it so quickly, it kind of sounds like a little bit of a mess. That's kind of how you achieve it, and you've got to go for it really, really, really fast. Kind of like that, really. It's nuts, isn't it? And then you slide up here. So that's the next section, then you slide up here. And then you hear, and it's the same thing again. So you bend away from yourself, release, and then come towards yourself. And then you get this fast run here. Jump up. And then it jumps up. And then slides down there. It sounds a lot better when it's fast, but these are the notes that are played. Bar 154 right now. And then you're going to slide up at some point to the first finger. So you've got to use these notes here. Then it's still an 8 pickup, and then you're going to do this ridiculously fast section here that goes. So you do this muted. You gradually release the palm. So you just jump up to there. Make sure you use that second finger here when you're doing this. Jump. And then we're on the outro here, so and then we're doing this cool pattern on the outro here, so so that's how the first section works. You're doing it kind of slowly with a bend. So that happens a few times. And then it changes to... So it's like a sort of repeating pattern there. So you get the hammer on, 1 4 1, and then the second finger is a bend. And then once you've done that round a few times, you get drop the third finger. And we're on the very last little lick, so it comes to the 11th fret here. And that's it. In the background you hear it's kind of up here. But the kind of outro lick here is essentially done with these notes. So you get the and we're done. One of the hardest solos ever. I've tried to tab it out for you, so if you want the specifics, you can learn how to play them by slowing it right down and gradually increasing the pace of it. That was a tough lesson. I hope you enjoyed the very slow run-throughs of that. Check out some of the other content we've got for you, some of the other lessons. Thanks for watching our Appetite for Destruction playthrough. We've done side A. Like and subscribe, and we'll carry on with side B of the album. But in the meantime, take it easy, have a break. We'll see you soon.